welcome to our Congress the Palestinian ambassador to the UK, Husam Zomlot, and I am so delighted that he will address our Congress for up to half an hour. Please extend your warmest welcome.
Wow, what a vibe and energy. Conference, union members, ladies and gentlemen, friends, thank you for inviting me to speak today. Thank you for the solidarity you have shown already. And thank you, the University College Union Secretary General, Dr. Joe Grady, and the UCU President, Dr. Justin Mercer, and the wonderful, wonderful team, Alice Moss and Rob Copeland, and all the team and the UC members generally for your work and support throughout the years, but also recently of both students and faculty who are demanding that British universities and British universities end financial or partnership complicity with Israel's genocidal violence in Palestine, especially in Gaza. This is the kind of solidarity, this is the kind of work that can and is making a difference. This is the kind of work, solidarity, we need now. Because we are really at a point where time is of the absolute essence. And it is not surprising. It is not surprising. It is coming from you, from the UCU, from the higher education professionals, from the professors, from the lecturers, from the researchers, from the students, because you know, once you have the knowledge, once you know what is happening, then the choice is easy to make. And we have felt your support throughout this very dark period. It is clear now that Israel has been presented with no red lines. No red lines. Whether from the US or the UK governments over its conduct, its genocidal aggression on Gaza. Just witness the latest massacres in Rafah and the US and the UK reactions. And I specify the US and the UK because those two countries have been the last holdouts of unequivocal support to Israel. Neither have contained a whiff of condemnation of these unspeakable massacres that happened in Rafah over the last few days. Neither have shown any understanding of the gravity of Israel's crimes, neither show any signs that either country is prepared to begin seriously reining in the unhinged ally. It is equally clear that Israel is engaged in a genocide, a full-blown, no-holds-barred, plain as day genocide. It is, alas, clear from the data. Nearly 120,000 people murdered or maimed. The majority, the vast majority, are women and children. 70% of Gaza's housing has been destroyed or damaged. Over 80% of schools have been damaged or destroyed. Every single university in Gaza has been destroyed. Every one of Gaza's 625,000 school children is going without an education for 8 months. Of Gaza's 36 hospitals, just 4 remain partially functioning. Israel's unhinged violence has targeted every civilian sector in Gaza, not just health and education, destroying agricultural land, businesses, industry, roads, infrastructure, everything you need to meet, even the basic minimum standards to maintain life. Israel has intentionally, as you all have followed, in real time, intentionally cut off food, water, electricity, and fuel supplies to the 2.3 million people in Gaza. Gaza's population are now suffering an imposed famine and catastrophic levels of hunger. The images of children dying of malnutrition is a scar in our humanity for generations to come. This is not the result of a drought or a rise in sea level. This is a man-made, imposed famine in the 21st century. 1.7 million people in Gaza have been forcibly displaced and are battling hunger, disease, and homelessness. Israel has killed more than 250 aid workers, the highest in any given conflict, and has killed more than 700 healthcare workers. Israel is simply making Gaza unlivable, lifeless. It has fully occupied Gaza, reoccupied Gaza, and is preparing the ground for another round of mass ethnic cleansing, just like it did with the Nakba of 1948. It happened to my parents, my own parents. It is happening to their children in the 21st century, live on your screens, on our screens, and it is not only Gaza. In the West Bank as well, Israeli military invasions have increased, both in number and deadliness. Last week, the Israeli military invaded Jenin again and again and killed 12, including a teacher, a doctor, and 4 children. On Wednesday, 2 days ago, the military invaded Ramallah, burning to the ground a vegetable market and looting, literally looting, money exchange businesses. For decades, Israel has been slowly squeezing the living space of Palestinians in the West Bank, including occupied East Jerusalem, for any living space for Palestinians. Any land left has been appropriated, and the settlements are expanding. The settlement bypass roads, the military-only areas. The space in the West Bank is increasingly shrinking. This has happened while settlers have been allowed to run rampant, forcing more than 1,000 Palestinians in the West Bank out of their homes, depopulating tens of villages, particularly in the area of Al-Khalil, Hebron. More than 1,000 people from their homes, depopulating tens of villages while terrorizing the civilian population, all under the protection of the Israeli army. That military, that army, meanwhile, is destroying homes in punitive collective punishments all over the West Bank. Engages in arbitrary arrests, campaigns, is currently imprisoning more than 7,000 people without charge or trial, many of whom are children, by the way, and bombs and tears up infrastructure at will all over the West Bank. So, my friends, as a crucial part of this genocide, a crucial part of this genocide, Israel has targeted Gaza's education sector. Educide, or scholasticide as they call it, is an integral part of any genocide. Educide is an integral part of any genocide, targeting, as it does, a people's ability to learn, to develop, to survive, to thrive, to rise, and to build a sustainable and positive economy and society. Israel knows that. That this has been a deliberate targeting is not in doubt. It's not in doubt. It is not just the murder of 95 professors and more than 260 teachers. It is not just the systematic and massive destruction. The Israeli military has gone and done all that, rather gleefully, with soldiers posting videos of themselves on social media, blowing up, literally blowing up university buildings and setting fire to libraries. I am sure some of you have seen these images. And there is genocidal logic to the targeting of education. Of course, there is genocidal logic of targeting education. Not only does it undermine a people's ability to develop themselves and their communities, to withstand, to steadfast, to remain, and to rise. Again, not only it does leave the place, it leaves the population in a place less resilient. Of course, they want us less resilient, less immune. Not only all of that, after all, it is easier for an occupier to control an uneducated population than it is to subjugate a nation of PhD holders, a nation of university graduates. It strikes specifically at the heart of Palestinian steadfastness, at the heart of Palestinian identity, at the heart of Palestinian heritage, at the heart of who we are as a nation, targeting education. Because we, the Palestinian people, enjoy one of the highest literacy rates in the world. We have one of the highest rates of PhD holders per capita worldwide. Historically, education has been seen and continues to be seen as one of the primary ways for the Palestinian people not only to withstand occupation, ethnic cleansing, and genocidal violence, but to maintain our traditions, our heritage, our culture, and our connection to the land. A connection that goes back millennia. Every Palestinian has grown up with a mantra of education, 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 ringing in our ears from our parents and grandparents. It is why, despite a history of oppression, of subjugation, of displacement, of slander, of prejudice, that you see so many accomplished, so many accomplished Palestinians all over the world. This is why you see them. You see them as doctors and lawyers. You see them in academia. And we have some here, some professors and academics here that I'd like myself to actually applaud them. Here is one of them, and all of them. Please stand. You are the pride of our nation, and I'll tell you that's how we maintained and remained. And not only in academia, but you see Palestinians in big businesses, in politics, in entertainment, in the arts. You even see Palestinians in NASA. Education is the backbone of our nation. It is the bedrock of our people. It lies at the heart of our ability to survive and to rise again and again from the depth of despair. To still insist, as we will always insist, on our rights, our human, political, legal, collective, and individual rights, to be free and to be treated equally under law along with everyone else. Because that is what an educated nation does. So my friends, how do we respond? How do we respond? Number one, and how can we help? How can you help? First, I must thank you for what you have already done. We are following, Joe and all here, the very effective, impactful work you have been doing already to stand up for justice, to stand up for international law, to stand up for humanity, to stand up for all of us. We have been following your amazing work as higher education professionals in educating the next generation of leaders about genocide, about what is really happening in Palestine, about the facts. We've seen all of your efforts in making sure the truth is not a victim of what is happening. That academia is a place to teach the truth, not to be politicized. We've followed your support and your members of the incumbents all over the UK. And we salute you for that. We followed your amazing work with the USS fund, the pension fund for the higher education professionals. That's a fund of 64 billion pounds, 64 billion pounds. We follow your principled position that no of such pension funds from your members should go to fund illegalities. We followed your insistence that any institution implicated in the genocide, in the occupation and the colonization must be divested from. And we follow some of your achievements already in this regard. And I am going to applaud you for doing that. We are following your work about student visas, Palestinian students, and your work with the government to pressure the government to make sure that our students have access to universities here and to education here. We've followed your members and the activism around the arms factory all over the UK. Yes, arms factories that end up exporting weapons, that end up being dropped on the heads of children in Rafah, burning them alive, must be shuttered down, must be closed. And we follow your commitment to scholarship for Palestinian women, and we follow your commitment to help rebuild Gaza education sector. And of course, we also thank you for your very principled, early on position, calling for an immediate and permanent ceasefire. You were among the very first trade union to call for that. So we salute you for doing that and for from the beginning taking the right decision. There must be divestment, my friends, from any company that aids and abets Israel's genocide and Israel's colonial occupation and system of apartheid. There must be an end to partnership with Israeli universities implicated in the occupation. And some of these universities are even located in the occupied territories, in the illegal colonial settlements. And we must also be constructive. The rebuilding of Gaza will take decades. We do not have decades to get people back to education. Otherwise, we lose a generation, maybe two. We don't have time. Time is not our friend here. We must do so to save this generation, to preserve, as it is one of the UCU's core mission, the right to education and academic freedom. There are ways to mitigate this disastrous situation through online learning, through scholarship created specifically for Palestinian students, particularly from Gaza. And some of the Palestinian universities, including my own alma mater, Bir Zayt, has initiated a program, online program, and all other universities, Jerusalem University, and many others. We need to focus there and see how can we provide these students with a sort of a quick way of allowing those who are about to graduate from actually achieving their right to graduate. UK institutions can expand their partnership with Palestinian higher education institutions, not just in Gaza, but across occupied territories. We had a very constructive discussion last night, and I'm very proud to say that part of the discussion is that we will engage immediately in twinship between UK universities and Palestinian universities, particularly in Gaza, and I thank you for that very important initiative. Palestinian academics recently signed an open letter to their colleagues all over the world, including to you in the UK. In it, they wrote this. They said, Palestinian academics, we built these universities from tents. Let me explain what they were referring to here. They were referring to the 1948 Nakba, when Gaza, at the time, a population of 80,000 people, had to receive 200,000 people being forced out of their homes and towns and villages in the atrocities, or during the atrocities that were committed 76 years ago against the Palestinian people. 2/3 of the Palestinian people were forced out of their homes. 200,000 of them had to find way and shelter in Gaza, as if history is repeating itself. So the professors, our academics, and by the way, that tells you a lot about Gaza. Can you imagine a city receiving 2.5 times its population, embracing them? And that tells you the generosity of Gaza. And that tells you, because Gaza has received the remaining of Palestine, those who were ethnically cleansed, Gaza has become a sample of Palestine. Because our people there come from Jaffa, come from all these villages, including myself and my parents, by the way. I was born in Rafah refugee camp. And therefore, they were writing, we built these universities from tents, and I'll say it again, sorry. We built these universities from tents, and from tents, with the support of our friends, we will rebuild them once again. This is the Palestinian spirit of resilience. And we here at the Palestine Mission to the UK will help you and help all Palestinian academics. We will help reach out and connect and network, because I believe this is a moment of unity for all of us to deal with this catastrophic situation. Just as important is to keep up the pressure on decision makers in the UK, on politicians and on the media and on institutions in general. We know Israel does not care one jot about international law or even the sanctity of human life. Complete disregard. Does the UK government? The inconsistencies in the UK policy is simply staggering. On the one hand, the UK says it supports two-state solution for 40 years, 50 years. Voting record does not suggest that. And when we offer an opportunity for the UK government in the General Assembly and before it in the Security Council, they simply abstain from voting to recognize the two-state solution. The UK says it wants Israel to end the famine and allow unfettered access to aid to Gaza, but it refuses to impose measures on Israel to compel Israel to open land borders. I mean, does it take a genius to say, unless you compel a party that is unwilling, they will not do it? And there are ways to compel your friends. Instead, what we get is a floating pier. Have you heard of this pier? that was operational for just 11 days, barely delivered any aid, and has now fallen into disrepair at a cost of $320 million. Now it's off service because the US and the UK cannot pressure their ally to allow for access from the land crossings. And you really, really care about the humanitarian situation in Gaza, and then you actually suspend funding, that is the UK government, from the one organization that does the most humanitarian assistance, education and health, that is UNRWA, the UN. And then you said, the UK government said, we will wait for a report by the UN that came out on the 21st of April. Once that report comes out, we will resume our funding. The report came out. All countries that suspended their funding, including Germany and Austria even, have resumed their funding, except two capitals until now, London and Washington. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, such contradiction. I mean, you really mean that you want to solve the humanitarian issue? UNRWA provides health services to 92% of Gaza's children. 92%. What are you doing? What are you doing? Following some Israeli allegation about some individuals that the UN highest authorities said that this is unfounded? And even if they were founded, you collectively punish an organization because of acts of individuals? UNRWA has 30,000 employees. Even, and it's not founded, but even. And you collectively punish the entire population of Gaza because of that? It's unconscionable. You know, only in Gaza, UNRWA provides education to 300,000 children. This isn't just a UN aid agency. This is a lifeline. It's a lifeblood for education, for health, and what I was educated in an UNRWA school. And therefore, some governments are going all the way with Israel to actually cut the lifeline of the Palestinian people. It's as simple as that. And also London has put some sanctions on a handful of settlers. Good. That's a good step. It did break a taboo. The first time ever, since 76 years, the UK actually applies the idea of sanctions against Israeli actions. But it is the entire settlement project that is illegal. Every settlement is a war crime. There is no such a thing as a good settlements and bad settlements. All of them are very well defined in international law as war crimes. And therefore, we are talking and pressuring that we need to really do much more in sanctioning illegality. And look at this inconsistency as well. On the one hand, they sanction these 4 settlers, and still I'm not so sure how that has been enforced. But on the other hand, the government goes to the UK Parliament to legislate in law a legislation that would effectively ban you and all public bodies from imposing any kind of sanctions on the settlements. You see the inconsistencies all the time. And by the way, not just in the UK, but also in the US. In the US now, in some states, you have to sign, whatever body you are, you have to sign a contract that you will never, ever divest from Israel. So they are using the power of the law, legislating in law, to protect and shield settlements. And therefore, my friends, some governments are willing to allow themselves to be complicit with genocide, arming genocide, and destroying the international order, even destroying their own democracies. Look at the response to student encampments. Look at the way young people striving for justice have been vilified. Look at the police brutality in the US against these brave students. And please join me in applauding the courage and the moral clarity of these students. Particularly in the 25 incumbents in the United Kingdom alone, here in this very country. It fills our hearts with warmth and inspiration to see this. From Aberdeen all the way to Sussex in the south, students are there, showing their leadership. And therefore, my friends, we must demand sanctions and arms embargo. The UK must recognize the state of Palestine. This is not a gift, a favor, or a reward. This is an inalienable right of the Palestinian people. It has been long overdue, particularly with the historic, moral, and political responsibility of Great Britain towards the Palestinian people. And I'm here referring to the Balfour Declaration and the British Mandate. This is not something to consider for negotiations and to mince your words about. And let me assure you, the recognition is not just about Palestine. Palestine will be free. We will have our state. And our state will be independent, and Jerusalem will be our capital, and our refugees will return, whether the UK recognizes the state of Palestine or not. So this is about the United Kingdom more than anything else. It's about where and how the UK wants to see itself in international relations, how it wants to position itself vis-à-vis international consensus. Above all, we must provide light in this darkest of hours. And really, I'd like to salute here Ireland, Spain, and Norway for what they have done. And also salute the young. Take the cue from the young. It is the students who have become the teachers. Really, teachers of humanity, teachers of courage, teachers of bravery, teachers of statesmanship, teachers of leadership. They call them kids. They are the leaders. They are the real leaders. So, my friends, for 76 years, the Palestinian people have struggled for our rights, relentlessly. But we have not struggled for our rights only. We have struggled for all of our rights. Because it is, if we accept less rights than any others, if we accept to live in our own or on our own land as second-class citizens, as slaves on our own land, we would have undermined the rights of everyone else. And therefore, the way we see it, it is not only the Palestinian people that will suffer if this goes on. What we see today in Gaza will be repeated elsewhere if not stopped, and those war criminals are held accountable. The normalization of the mass murder of children, the mass murder of innocent people, the normalization of the mass destruction of schools and hospitals, of universities, of churches and mosques, of infrastructure, the normalization of the use of food and disease as a weapon of war will come back to haunt us if we don't stop it and hold those criminals to account. And this is why we must insist that never again. And the never again is not for the few, it's for all of us, for every and each one of us. This should never, ever happen again. I am so touched that this is the first time ever my princess, my daughter Alma, joins me here to the UCU Congress. I've tried many times to encourage Alma to join me, but this was her first yes, simply because she knew she is going to meet her next future teachers and professors. Please, have a seat. Yesterday, last night, Joe asked Alma, what do you want to study? And Alma responded to Joe, I want to study human rights law. Because she wants to defend her people. And she wants to defend the legality and the rules-based order we built together, the rules we built after the horrors of the Second World War. So I could not be more proud, Alma, but I promise you in front of our professors and lecturers and university staff here that we will also have to defend you and your generation and make sure that this will never, ever happen to you as it happened to your parents and grandparents. Let this be the last time. Let this be the last time. And I want to vow for you, that we will recover. We will recover this. We are not so sure if some of the world politicians will ever recover from this, but we will. We know how to recover. We will rise again. We have experience with recovery, and I often say we even have experience with resurrection in Palestine. We are resilient, and we will recover. We will rebuild Gaza. We will rebuild every single university. And guess what? We will build more universities. And for 76 years, we have struggled for everyone. Because if we give up our rights, we would have given up your rights. And you will continue to struggle with us until Palestine is free, until justice is served. And I thank you again for all that you have done. Thank you very much. Palestine! Palestine!